think this might be a quicker one, but so about a few days ago from when I'm recording this, I began to think to myself, right, I have this feeling, not belief that, it's not this case of this nation versus that nation, this continent versus that continent, or you have America and Israel, and then you have people be, oh no, I do not agree with this. No. I thought they were all in it and connected together. And it's a question of, well, how? So I was beginning to think to myself, right, let's go to China, for example, because China, you've got them in ties with Larry Ellison from Oracle, you know what I mean? He's the one, essentially, with Skynet, by the way, Skynet surveillance system, for the, which essentially monitors everyone constantly, looks at the face, and then if you, I don't know correctly, if it's a case of if you're not like happy or smiling enough, and that's like you get your social credits score reduced, all that malarkey, right? Which I do believe the price will end up spending on a wide scale, but that's for later on for another video, maybe even. But from what I can see, I began looking and I thought to myself, right, if you notice the pattern of, in all these high places, there's people of that, I guess, race who belong to that race in all these high places, you know what I mean? Like, Ellison, for example, right? So I began to think to myself, okay, let's check for them in China. And not only is there them in China, but as well as that, though, in the government, surprise, surprise. Not just that, though. Do you know what they worked on, the government in China? They worked on advertising and propaganda and everything like that to start communism in China. And then that got me thinking, I was like, right, okay. Now, I think for any of it was pretty obvious, but like for me, it wasn't, that might have been as well, but I mean in terms of, the next bit I'm going to get on, because so I started to think to myself, right, okay, this really ties into communism, and I thought to myself, right, is that their ultimate end goal? Yes, it is, right, so I'm gonna, and the reason I say that is because if you look at things like the New World Order, basically, and I will link a video in the description which gives a lot more information. There's part that I haven't fully researched, like there's a bit where the top of Hitler and things, I haven't looked into that, so I'm not saying I agree with that, but there's a lot of information there that I do agree with, that I've checked and it seems okay. Either way, it points out the fact, that it leads to communism, you know what I mean? You see it in history and things, and I don't really want to get into that because I think it's very important to see how society is heading that way, because I see it with a lot of things like the destruction of our society and things like that, do you know what I mean? Like, it was a thing that I didn't realise that like communism does a lot of that, but I think you see it, for example, in China, like how, want to get rid of religion, especially the Bible, but I remember someone said before, oh, well, it doesn't matter because it's not real anyway, blah, 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 all that usual stuff, right? But whether it's real or not doesn't matter, because what matters is the fact it's basically against, obviously, authoritarian, and obviously communism as a whole, so it's quite important, because if the people have that, then obviously they're going to not stand for that, do you know what I mean? But if you get rid of that, then you see the same thing with, again, like the likes of you and all trying to get rid of, religion and things, especially around Christianity, not religion, Christianity especially, anyway. And even just drawing things like family values, this and that. I'm going to make another video talking about destruction, things like that. But the point is, it links to that, and you see that through communism, because I think it's quite reliant on like for the lay person as well, especially the person who on day to day, with the 9 to 5 and things like that, to essentially think, oh, we're not moving towards that, we're very capitalist, do you know what I mean? and you know, I don't understand what communism actually looks like, because I didn't know, you know what I mean? You think of red. I'm not, like, I'm not, this is, I mean, I feel like you should be saying this, but you know, you think it's red, it's Russian, it's, you know, it's ours, you know, you think of like the memes and stuff like that, which I think could even be part of it. But either way, you know, we do see that, I mean, like, for example, like, one of the very first symbols for, like, communism things, I believe it was Roosevelt's, not, but like, the article called Roosevelt's Manifesto, and it is literally the same symbol as on the dollar bill, right? And it's like, what's that doing on a capitalist piece of money, do you know what I mean? It's like, what's going on there? And you do see it, do you know what I mean? I mean, you know, come on there, New World Order's end goal as well is to have a one currency, one government, you know, authoritarian is the end goal. I think it's very vital to see it as well, because it can link back to the destruction aspect of the one to tear down society and build that back in its place, and you see it now. It's just how everything works. I mean, in reality, like, how much do we even own? Because, you know, you see things like credit cards, and there's a whole thing, you know, that was like introduced back in the 60s and things like that, do you know what I mean? With like inflation, and I believe they capped the wages, you know what I mean? But they went, oh, here, we'll give you a credit card, and essentially you still buy stuff in spite of inflation. But it's like, that's not really solving the problem. You're just putting us in debt, and you know what I mean? That's what I'm linked to, because of, you know, you see the fact that the people are in debt, like you see with universities, like that debt alone, never mind, obviously with credit card, you see things that, like, people don't even own houses these days. It's crazy. Own houses, the cars, everything, and then you have things like Klarna where you haven't even bought them outright, like something like a one-time purchasing, like, which would usually be the case. You know, paying off monthly installments. It's crazy. It's all crazy. It's all craziness. It really is, in my opinion. But you know, you see as well, I mean, we have this absolute polarising, you know, you see time and time again of the left versus the right, you know, the Democrats versus, you know what I mean, the yada yada yada, all that stuff, right? You see it with capitalism versus communism, but you see it slowly, you know, pulling together. Do you know what I mean? You have things like, what was it, the Fabian side and things like here in Britain, you know, essentially advocating for that, and then if you look back in the history of that, you know, you see the guy essentially telling, like, you know, if you do not pull your weight around here, we will get rid of you. We will, you know what I mean? Like, if you do not, essentially earn or give back as much as you take, or a bit more, then we will get rid of you every 5 years. Like, what do you mean? Why would anyone, you know? And you see, saw a picture with Starmer linked that the other day. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. There's another thing as well. I want to get into. I mean, it kind of links this as well about everything being like all the content stuff and being all in on it essentially. You know, the political leaders, you know, they're all, you know, two sides of the same coin, really. Do you know what I mean? It's no different. It's all, you know, it's all corrupt at the end of the day, in my opinion, from what I've seen. You know, I'm not going to do it yourself, but that's what I've discovered anyway. You know, you do see this, like, gradual movement towards, you know, time by time. This is another thing that they do. It's a long thing where they intercept themselves, and slowly over time it begins to slowly change till it's no longer that thing. It's like, what? And you see that slow and steady gradual march towards communism, especially with the New World Order again, like with the World Economic Forum, you know what I mean? Like, just insane it is. I mean, and one thing I want to add about this anyway, because this isn't the deepest dive, you know, I'm still putting things out with it, but I think it's very obvious, especially to others, you know. I just want to put this here before I move on. Everything that I say, I'm not saying I've the only person to discover this sort of brand new thing, but you know, I just want to bring the later things that I've personally researched and discovered, and I just want to, you know, like it could be the case that it is, but, you know, that does what 10 people have seen before, but this is what, like, I'm not saying research, I mean actual research, you know, just what this control position is, do you know what I mean? It's what I've personally been able to find, so, yeah, but I think one final thing I want to add for now is, you know, you see, especially like left lane and, do you know what I mean, like, they are very much wanting that in a way. I don't think they're quite understand the ramifications of it, like, they say they do, but, you know, like, I was talking to someone who I know was left lane and things, and, you know, they're like, what's actually so bad about coming, like, right, yeah, but, I need to remember this, you know, because just give them, but I can't remember the place, but there was a place apparently in Europe, apparently communism does work, but I was like, right, but that's not going to be the case, you know, right, the rest of it, because you see places like China, like Russia, you know, very big. I think the place that they mentioned was quite small. I was like, yeah, but the thing is, right, if I'm seeing as the case as well, you could even argue, and I'm not saying any evidence for this, this is just a personal speculation, but, you know, if they wanted it the same good, they would have that and be like, but look, they can do it, therefore we should try and see how it goes. But no, because as you can see from the people in charge, they're not gonna be too positive. They're gonna be quite nefarious, let's just say that. But no, you do see it in like all the media as well, like, oh, we hate capitalism bad, like, you know, like, you see that on, like, again, leftists and especially where like big corporation bad, like, they're the biggest threat to them in their world, essentially. You know, that's like as big as it gets, and no bigger, nothing outside of that, which makes sense, you know, quite a godless existence that, I suppose. Not literally, but you know what I mean, like, in their minds anyway. You know, they can't see beyond that, and it is, you know, they're the big bad, you know. They're standing in the way of everything, they're making everything better. I mean, yeah, but not the only ones, you know what I mean. But no, you see that as well, that, again, that pull towards communism, but like, you know what I mean, it's very, yes, I thought I'd share that, 'cause I think you begin to see this plan they ultimately have. And in the next video, I mean, that's not like a series, I want to say it's not like some big grand series, but I think in the next part of this anyway, I want to basically know what the ultimate end goal is, which again, not saying I've the only person who discovered this, but you know what I mean, I just want to give a sort of timeline of what the end really want to do at the end of the day. So yeah, that'll be for the next video, I suppose.